All right. Well, I don't want to get behind schedule or anything. So I think everybody knows Oliver, owner of IC360, a longtime Expression Engine conference sponsor, and a great all-around guy. He spoke at previous virtual meetup on his famous dashboards using channel forms. So again, I encourage you guys to go to our YouTube channel, check that out, see what that's all about and how he's helping his clients with those dashboards. Over in the UK, correct, Oliver?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So appreciate him joining us from across the pond there, and appreciate all you guys. I know we have people from all over the world joining us today. One of our speakers is actually in New Zealand, so looking forward to that and looking forward to having her join us. So I appreciate you guys, whether you're waking up really early or staying up really late, or this is just in the middle of your day. Appreciate you guys joining us and sticking around. So Oliver's going to talk to us today, saving the planet one pixel at a time. And so, Oliver, I'm going to go ahead and hop off, but of course, I'm around. If you need anything, just yell, or if you need any help, and then I'll jump back in when it's time for Q&A at the end.
Okay, I'm just trying to share my screen. I'm making sure I can share a window, but I'm not sure whether I'm doing the right thing.
I'll stick around and hold your hand for another minute or so here.
Okay. So...
in the meantime, I'll do a little juggling act.
Yeah. Right, it's not letting me share my window. What's going on? Window.
What browser are you using?
So I'm on Chrome, and I'm clicking the little screen icon down the bottom, and selecting. I want to share my preview program.
You should have Window, Chrome tab, or entire screen.
Yes, so I'm clicking on Window, and then I'm clicking on the app I want to share, and clicking on Share. Nothing's coming up. Are you seeing anything at your end?
I'm not. No, not.
Right, bear with me 1 second. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening. Sorry. Window. Share. Not sure. What should I do? So reboot? What can I do?
I'm talking to you on mute. That's not helping you. Yeah, I guess we can try the. Have you shared that app before?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think it's asking me to change my security settings on my browser. But I don't quite know what I'm doing with that, I'm afraid. I have done it before, though.
Did you want to try Firefox or another browser? Or do you have another browser installed?
I could try that. Yeah, that's true. I could try Safari.
Yeah, let's try that real fast, and then if not, we'll do a reboot here.
All right, cool.
It looks like Carl's offering to do a presentation if we can't get you going. So.
Okay, I'll just jump out of this browser and rejoin with the other browser. Back in a sec.
Have you tried turning it off and back on again? Ah, yes, Justin, that's my fan. I know. I don't know why it's doing that lately. KD was supposed to be a lighter environment than Gnome, and I thought it was going to be easier on my graphics, but it's not. Saw your video for a minute there.
Can you hear me? Okay, I need.
Is that what I look like?
Yes.
You're sharing. You're sharing all your screens. It looks like.
Yeah. How do I do that? Sorry, everyone. Quite going to plan.
I know Paul's going to ruin this conference with jokes if we don't figure this out. I hate it when people say age is only a number. Age is clearly a word. Yes. And Paul, save some of these for later. Oh, goodness. Paul, I hope you're having to Google these and you don't know these off the top of your head because.
Okay, it's not ideal.
Things never go quick. I can see that.
Like sharing like this. Can everyone you see that okay? Or should I remind me from it?
We see your whole screen right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I'm trying to share the window and not let.
Hmm.
Go back. All right. Google. Yeah.
You just want to try it like this?
Yeah, happy to. Not a problem. Um, can people get okay? Can you see it okay if I obviously hide this window that way?
Yeah, your audio and video is a little choppy for me. Is anybody else hearing that too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
your
can
sounds
well, I
great.
can hear uh, so Justin asked, could I share the slides publicly? And yes, I could do that if you prefer. At least we can get it running. Just
Oh yeah, if you want to send it to me, maybe I can share my screen.
yeah, shall I do that? Okay. What shall I send that an email or?
That's fine. Yep.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can just. Yep.
Okay. So just on its way now. Still heading out. Okay. Should be with you shortly.
All right, I'm just waiting for it to come through. You send that to the conference email. Yep, got it.
Cool.
All right, let's figure this out.
Nice.
All right, everybody see that?
Yep.
All right. So we'll try to not do that and go back to full screen. I don't know what I just did.
That looks good.
All right. So I guess you'll just do the whole like next slide thing.
Yeah, if that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problems.
Oh, yeah, your beer or 6. Cool. Thank you. Yes, the green shirt was intentional. Okay, thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. It's a real pain, but we'll make it through. Cool. Thank you. Thanks to everyone at the Expression Engine Conference and the Expression Engine Community Association for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation. We got there in the end. Today, I'd like to explore how we can save the planet one pixel at a time. Next slide, please. I think we're all now very aware of global warming and environmental issues, and eco-living is becoming a bigger goal for more and more people around the world, for sure. But with all this becoming heavier in our minds, it can be overwhelming. We don't quite know how to make a difference, or where we can start to help make an impact, especially in our business lives. So I thought it would be a good idea to have an overall look at some practical and realistic ideas that we could all implement, whether as designers, developers, or business owners, to help make steps in the right direction. Next slide, please. Hi, my name is Oliver Cannell. I live and work in the southwest UK. IC360 was started in 1999, initially as a virtual tour photography and interactive media business with additional design and web services. Now, mostly it revolves around web design and build, with the usual hosting, branding design, and website growth services included. I've been using Expression Engine since version 1.6 in 2008, and it's always been my go-to CMS of choice for all websites. But I'm also a big believer in doing what I can to help the environmental situation, choosing to make changes wherever possible and help make a difference. As web designers and developers, why should we care? If it's mostly about CO2 release these days and carbon footprints, and those are the buzzwords, amongst many other issues, of course, what's that got to do with websites? After all, pixels don't weigh anything, right? Next slide, please. So what's the problem? In terms of design, build, hosting, maintenance, and day-to-day running of a website, the main focus will be energy usage, electricity. Electricity is used in this whole system to power our computers and devices, our phones and communications, our offices, homes where we work, the servers that host the sites, the facilities that house and run these servers, the coffee machines that fuel our brain cells, our clients' computers, office facilities, and their coffee machines. And then the website end users' computers, devices, and again, their coffee machines. So the whole chain relies on power to transfer pixels of information from A to B to communicate a message, an idea, or transaction. A huge draw on global resources. And these resources, electricity, as we're focusing on, have to come from somewhere. We all know this, but most of us don't really think about it. Next slide, please. So this reminds me of a great quote from a few years ago when here in the UK, the supermarkets were made to charge customers for providing carrier bags for people to take their shopping home in a bid to reduce waste from single-use plastics. Some people couldn't quite see the benefit in changing the status quo. They were saying, how does bringing my own bags to the supermarket help save the planet? It's just a couple of carrier bags. Next slide, please. It said 70 million people. This clearly highlights, I think, how if everyone makes a small change, then we can make a huge difference on a global scale. Wouldn't it be great if we could apply this same logic to our working lives and website development in this case? So what can we do to help? As electricity is the big ticket item here, and obviously there are others, but let's focus on that. What are the key elements? So the first is design, code, and the usage of the website. So simple design is usually the best. Don't create hurdles or challenges for the user. Make things obvious and quick to navigate. Give the user what they need without minimal fuss. As they say, less is more. Trying to optimize a designed-in feature is far less effective than not designing it in the first place. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So also, on top of that, create more efficient code and clean code. Make it less complicated. Obviously, that will use less code. And minify what you do create. And this will result in making editing quicker and simpler. It will make the sites run faster, so you'll have reduced code and less bloat. It will reduce the energy usage on the server and on user devices, ultimately. Therefore, a smaller carbon footprint. And then on top of all of that, you've got website longevity. Obviously, the longer a website lasts, the less often it will need to be redesigned and recoded. But to counterbalance that, obviously that maybe means it's less profitable financially at a surface level. Rebuilds are often driven by technological changes, so sometimes that's out of your hands. But the benefit is better value to the client, so maybe you can charge more. And we start to look at quality versus quantity in that case. Code optimizations. Everything we can do to make a site run more efficiently will benefit the end user, the client, and also the environment. What can affect site speed, though? Obviously, there's a whole load of things, but fewer images, image compression, and image formats are very important. So, for example, I use the JCOG's image add-on to convert JPEG to WebP formats, which results in much smaller file sizes for images. By writing less code, by having fewer lines and minifying your code using an add-on like Minifizer or other methods. Minified versions of linked code, so things like bootstrap.min.css. Using fewer plugins. Lighter code options, so by looking at PHP and expression engine tag methods available. And also looking at unnecessary JavaScript and jQuery calls. All those things add up to help reduce, if you could take some of those things out to help reduce the load. Looking at quicker tags. So, for example, using a field ID instead of a field name in channel images. Thanks to Robin for that tip. But make a comment in code, obviously, to remind you what the field name is for future reference and editing. And then on a publishing level, caching and compression. Cache the templates. You can cache EE tags. You can cache the images, as I've said, with JCOGs. But also use simple things that are already built in, like gzip. All these things add up and really make a difference. And then maintaining a site. So this not only is your technical maintenance, but content publishing and content editing as well. Expression Engine is obviously a great tool for giving content editors a smooth and efficient workflow to their sites. by making channels and fields within the control panel as logical and as obvious as possible, with the help of field instructions if needed, this will help help the content editors make changes more quickly. They'll require less time, less effort, less resources from you as developers to help them understand and use the control panel. It will help them improve their business throughput and efficiency. And ultimately, it then means they use less energy in achieving what they need to achieve. So yes, time is money, but also less means fewer resources required. Again, it all adds up. Next slide, please. So hosting, I mean, that is probably one of the big ones. And we have different priorities with hosting, but it needs to be thought about. Where is the site hosted? How are those servers powered? What is their eco policy? So in the UK, I use a hosting provider whose servers are powered 100% by renewable energy, wind and solar. Not only does this have a good feel-good factor, but it's also a good news story that my clients can pass on to their customers, which is better for business, better for the planet. And how is the site hosted? Is it on a dedicated server? Is it a VPS? Is it shared hosting? Does the site need to be on a dedicated server using more energy resources, or will it be good enough to run on shared hosting? Think about downscaling your hosting requirements if it can be done. Next slide, please. Thank you. But what else? The actual websites are just part of the equation. What about office lighting, heating, air conditioning, your power, electricity? Are you using renewable energy supplier? Traveling to work? Do you walk, cycle, get the train? Lucky enough to have an electric car? Homeworking, that will save all that. But it's a balance. It's a balance. Your printering, the refills, can you recycle your cartridges? Are you using recycled paper? How are you recycling your waste? Bathroom hand washing, cleaning products, are they natural, organic, eco? Coffee, tea, your milk, where does this come from? This is all kind of day-to-day stuff that can all be looked at, and it all has an impact. For example, also packaging, that you might get stuff delivered. Can you reuse it? Can it be used again rather than thrown away? Even down to the sellotape, plastic tape, can you use paper instead? And then working practices, we've all been doing it for the last 2 years, but online meetings versus face-to-face to reduce travel emissions. And quicker meetings as well. Less waffle ultimately means a shorter meeting and better efficiency. So yes, there's a lot to think about. Still feeling overwhelmed? I think it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. It's very understandable. There are so many things that can be done. Even implementing more sustainable working practices and resource improvements takes time, effort, and actual energy itself. But there's no doubt these changes will reduce your business's negative impact on the environment. Make your own working procedures more efficient and more eco. Make your clients and their end users' experiences slicker and more efficient, and they'll make your business a more attractive proposition to potential clients. So where to start? Anywhere. Pick one thing this month. Anything you touch today, whether it be a real object or code or a procedure, think, how could I make this better? How can I make this a better eco decision? And then another one next month, choose something else. And you'll find, obviously, in 12 months' time, you'll have 12 life-improving decisions, not only for you and your business, but for everyone. Next slide, please. So remember, pixels are real and they are heavy. Eco begins at home and in work. If we can all do a little, help our clients do a little, everybody wins. Let's make our pixels green. Thank you very much. Please let me know if you have any questions, either in the Q&A or I'll be happy to chat elsewhere. Thank you. We made it.
Yay!
Oh my word.
I was trying. I got a few in there before you said next slide.
Yeah,
I was proud of myself. Yeah. Some were too early though, but I was trying. So, no, I think that was a great presentation, Oliver. And something we should all be more aware of. I think we all know the environmental issues our world has had for many, many years now. My whole life I can remember people talking about it, and all the way from elementary school and on. So definitely not just something for kids in school to think about, but us adults walking around, or a lot of times we don't even think about that, just sitting in our office doing our work, that we could actually have an effect on the environment just using our laptops, in our home somewhere.
Yeah.
So those are good, all things to think about. So we have a few minutes here for questions. If anybody has any questions about this. So Oliver, I'll ask a question. Hopefully this isn't putting you on the spot too much, but I would hope based on this talk that it's not. You've talked about some general ideas and thoughts as far as, reducing our footprint or one more eco there. Maybe some examples of some stuff that you've done recently or that you've noticed, so instead of talking about like general, you could do this, you could do this. What are some things like you've done recently specifically to your setup or your work along these lines?
Yeah, there's quite a few, and some are not recent. They've kind of happened over the years, really. The one big one being the energy supply here is 100% renewable, so all the electricity is run by solar and wind. And then I think maybe 2 years ago, I managed to move my hosting to a hosting provider that used that same energy provider. So, it feels like everything I'm doing here is a much smaller impact than what it would have been before. So that's one thing. There's so many things. There's just little things. Where do you get your coffee from? What provider is that? What else? I'm lucky enough to be able to drive an electric car now, which is being charged off this power. So that's quite a big thing, but obviously it affects me personally as well. So that's a lifestyle change as well as an eco decision. And then I was saying about some of the add-ons, minifying your code, just creating smaller code bases for the site that you create, and then obviously the less you push out, the less 20,000 people will be downloading every time they look at the website every year, or hundreds of thousands. It all adds up. So it's not really what you're doing here now. It's not just that. It's what everyone is then having to download onto their phones.
Sure.
If it's a 0.1% of their phone battery that they're using to view your website, then multiply that by 50,000, and that's a lot of battery space.
Sure. So, I think one thing, at least I think about, I assume others might think about that too, but moving to renewable energy sources, even though they're more popular these days than they have been in the past, such as going to solar power and everything like that. Have you had to change like how you do things or anything? Like, or is your power coming to your machines and everything the same? Do you have to worry about like, hey, let's, we got to turn off the lights between 9 and 5 to recharge the batteries or anything? Like, are there any kind of adjustments you've had to make based on those decisions to move more electric or more solar or more renewable energy?
I would say no. Any decisions I have made have been made on not only the benefits, but also not having to change what we do day to day. And I think most of the easiest decisions to make are those like, oh, I won't buy that brand, I'll buy that brand instead. And, you're still getting the same product, but that one's less environmentally damaging than this one. The only downside often with that is it might cost slightly more, but if you're looking at the big picture, then it's beneficial to everyone. And the more people that buy the better products, the more affordable they will become. It's a economy of scale, isn't it? So
Sure.
I think if we can all pick and choose one thing occasionally, and if you keep a note of them, that after a year you look back at that list and you go, wow, I've changed this, and this, and it hasn't affected my lifestyle. And ultimately we can all benefit.
Awesome. So we do have a few questions here. One from Eric says, are there any hosts that are more eco-friendly than others? And I guess I'll mix that with Carl's question that says, what hosting company are you using that use renewable energy solutions?
Yeah, the hosting company I'm using are based in London. They're called Crystal with a K. They are, all the servers are powered by 100% renewable wind and solar. I'm sure there's others out there, and I am using actually a Windows-based one as well, another provider called WebWiz, I think. And I think there's loads out there, but you just got to kind of ask the question, really. And I think the more people that ask the question or push the issue with their providers, whether it's a courier, what kind of vehicles are they driving, or is it a hosting company? The more people that ask these questions, the more they're likely to take this on board and change, the way they work and their working practices. So.
All right. Eric asked a question that's over my head just to read this, but I'm going to try. So it says, I'm curious about the cost of server-side processing and the inefficiencies compared to the cost of network traffic. Any ideas around that?
I guess that's related to if you've got a very fast machine on the other end serving your website, that it would effectively be using more power to do that job.
I see that. Yeah.
Does that really make a difference? And it's kind of balances out in the wrong way in that sense. You almost want to be not just putting more power behind it. So you don't want to be using a V8 when a V4 or whatever would do the job. It's better to surely reduce the load, so have less code, have more efficient code, than just throw a bigger engine behind it, which would ultimately use more power. I think that's probably a good way to think about it, if that's what that question was referring to.
Yeah, he says in chat, yeah, that's what he was talking about. So good job.
Yeah.
And Paul mentioned a recent article. He said it's just eye-opening to see all the racks and the centers being built for crypto mining. So not really a question as much as a comment, unless you have a comment on that. I mean, crypto is something that's very big. We see that it's not just for, the geeks anymore, the techies, right? Like we're seeing that. I mean, earlier with Dogecoin and all that kind of, and like the whole like jump and rise and everyone's jumping on it. Now we see it tanking and then it's going to jump back up or whatever's going to happen with it. Crypto is on CNN every day now. It's a normal part of conversation. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on crypto and where we should be at as far as, especially in the tech industry, using crypto? Or, I mean, I know probably don't want to get too, political or anything like that, so, but, crypto in general obviously has a big carbon footprint. So any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, a very sort of high level comment really, in that it's understandable why these farms were often using places like Iceland to host the server, because they didn't have to provide so much cooling, and ultimately that meant less electricity costs for them just financially, but ecologically that kind of made sense. But if these places are being housed in Dubai or somewhere like that, then they're going to have shed loads of cooling requirements. Yeah, I don't know how using crypto versus normal banking balances out. I guess we don't have both sides of the equation to look at the figures, do we, from that sense? But I do have an interesting stat here, which I did find from another article, but it was looking at basically website usage, data usage, 2011, so it's 10 years old, but it's really interesting. They were saying that they estimated that with every website in the whole world being pushed around, they estimated that 5% of the global power is used to run websites. So that's 10 years ago. Imagine what that is now. I'd say that's probably triple. What with cryptocurrency, what with people working from home, video calls. A guesstimate, 15% of the world's energy used to run websites. That's crazy. That's a lot of energy. So I think if we can all tweak something here, tweak something there, do I need that image? Can I crunch it a bit more? It's all going to make a huge difference. And I think, without changing our lifestyles dramatically, I think we can all make a little difference here and there, and it ultimately makes a global difference.
Right. And I think that, kind of hits the nail on the head too, especially in the crypto conversation, because there were people talking about data centers for hosting and everything, but just like you said, compared to regular banking, financial institutions have huge data centers all over the world. And then I think Paul just posted, probably not a huge difference between centers for one use crypto versus other general hosting too. So when you take all these data centers that we have, yes, the big thing everyone's like, crypto, all these things. And that's probably more of I think one thing we're seeing in the States, at least, and Paul mentioned this because of rural Minnesota, but also there's a lot of rural towns around the States, that these small towns and these people are coming in and being like, oh, here's cheap land, I'm going to put a big crypto mining thing here. And so now, instead of getting mad at Walmart for building another huge store in town, they're getting mad at the crypto data center or whatever. So
I guess there's other things as well, like Netflix and YouTube and all the services that we now use, often in parallel on multiple devices in one household. It's not just one TV in the living room anymore, is it? It's our behavior and our usage of online services that has just exponentially grown in 10 years. It's not only what are we doing and what are we publishing, it's also how we use the technology and can we rethink it occasionally just to help.
Eric makes the point about crypto is a constant process versus web centers are kind of depending on traffic. So I guess there's a little bit there as well. You mentioned that. I've seen everyone now with the memes about I'm so glad we cut cable so we could subscribe to 15 different streaming services. So,
very true.
But that right there is another way that you can impact your footprint there. Is every streaming service, all those subscriptions that you have, and a lot of those overlap and making choices there. I do think it's a constant choice that we make. We choose to either help this or not, kind of stuff. So the onus is kind of definitely on us to make those decisions. Not while it's great for big companies to make the decisions, and like you said, being able to find a hosting service that's eco-friendly and those kind of things. Really, it lies on each of us to make that decision daily in all that we do.
And also to help our clients make that decision as well. I mean, often they don't think about it, but if you could plant that seed in their mind and say, look, if you did it like this, you could push a green news story out and your customers will like that more. It's also a business thing as well. It's good PR. So it kind of makes sense. If you can push back on a couple of things with your clients, say, well, how about we do it this way instead? It could start a bit of a domino effect, I think.
All right. So EE is eco-friendly, I guess. I don't know. Can we do that somehow? So nice. you got to get the E joke in there. So
all
right. I'm gonna see. All right. So I think that's it for now. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Oliver, so thankful for you joining us again. So thankful for all that you do for the community. As a sponsor of the conference, a partner with Expression Engine. So definitely, if you're an end user, or if you're somebody that needs some extra help or some extra horsepower with your team or need some work done, definitely reach out to Oliver and his team at IC360 and see what they can do. Give them love, give them some support. And again, just, I think just a message saying thank you just reminds them how important what they're doing is. So thank you, Oliver.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience, everyone. We got there in the end.
Yeah, man. So a little bit of teamwork there. So we're going to go ahead and break now, and we'll come back at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time